everybody, I'm Amanda, aka Dara, and this is 10907, aka the D. Its most notable features are my Pimptastic seat covers that I got on clearance at Walmart, and my fuzzy dinosaur there, and the fact that I put 21,000 miles on it in the first 3 years I owned it, which was the same number of miles it had gotten between 1982 and 2016. If anybody hasn't heard the saga of this car, it was my 40th birthday present to myself. I bought it from a friend of a friend in Indiana. It sounded perfect on paper, but turned out to be a little more of a fixer-upper than I expected. Its original owner had parked it from 1993 to 2016 with a block full of coolant, so I had a lot of rust to deal with, a lot of overheating issues when I first got it, but that said, it did get me from Chicago to Salt Lake City without a tow truck the first time I ever drove it. The first winter I had it, I ended up dumping it at Huntington Beach to get the engine overhauled after it overheated going up the hill to my cousin's house in Oceanside. But the next spring I drove it from Salt Lake City to New Jersey and back, and I made it without a tow truck. I've been pretty underwhelmed by the quality of work I've gotten at local shops, so I've been trying to learn to do more of my own work. My big spring project this year was replacing my radiator, which had sprung a leak after hitting a Mount Everest-sized speed bump at the parking garage in the Circus in Vegas 3 years ago. I got the new aluminum radiator from DeLorean Go with the polyurethane bushings and some new brackets. Make a note, when you install the polyurethane bushings, you need longer bolts. I learned that the hard way. And I also installed Toby's self-bleeder kit from up at DeLorean Parts Northwest. Here's the back portion of the bleeder kit. That's where it plugs into the thermostat. There's my ice shield for my throttle spool, which I need in case I get caught out in a blizzard, which I have before on road trips. The latest edition of this kit comes with a valve that you can shut the bleeder on or off for normal operations or diagnosis. Here's something a little different. I wanted a little more support for the bleeder hose, and I asked Ryan Foster out in North Carolina if his dad could build me a bracket to fit where the light was, since my light never worked. And he came up with this design. It goes behind the light, and it's got a little cradle there for the hose. I have an extra length of hose wrapped around mine because despite the hose saying the size right on it, I accidentally told him the wrong size, but that's a pretty neat little thing. You install it by drilling out the rivets on the light and then just pop the light back on there, so if I ever get a switch for my light, I can still have a working light there. The other big thing I've done this year was upgrade some of my relays with Dave McKean's solid state relays. This is his RPM relay, and here we have his fan relays. The blue one's kind of nice. It makes your fan lights work again, and they'll blink if your fans go out, so that's pretty neat. The other thing I did this year was get my alternator rebuilt. It had been running a little low and making a funny noise sometimes, and turned out my brushes were melted. While I had it out, I took the opportunity to install this turnbuckle tensioner based on instructions by Chris Miles. You can find those on DeLoreanDirectory.com. You can build it with parts from McMaster Car, and it makes reinstalling it by yourself a lot easier. Now, this thing I talked about a little in a previous DeLorean weekend video, but it's called a blaze cut. It's a passive fire extinguisher. When it gets too hot in there, the plastic melts and releases a suppressant. There's a doubt that it would be that efficacious in a vented compartment like ours, but I figure if it buys me another few seconds to get back there with a real extinguisher, it's worth $100. So that's 10907. I'm looking forward to the corona apocalypse ending so I can hit the road again. And I'd like to thank Dave Swingle and Mike McElhatton out at DMC Midwest, Josh Bankston at DPI, and Ryan Foster and Chris Miles and the gang at DMC Talk for helping me keep my car on the road instead of on a lift.